Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Regan McLean, and I'm the director for our Kiln Salt Lake location. For anyone that's tuning in today that's unfamiliar with Kiln, we are a co-working space focused on building community for the early stage tech system. We have locations here in Salt Lake and Lehigh, and we are currently expanding into Boulder and Park City later this year. Startup Stories is a series that we host monthly. We usually do this in our theaters. We've decided to take it online this month with Mike Maughan of Qualtrics. When we're back together, we can't wait to see you in our space at the next Startup Stories event. So make sure to follow us on social and subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss anything. I'm excited for this conversation today. Mike, why don't you go ahead and start off with an introduction of yourself?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. A pleasure to be here with you all today. As Regan said, my name is Mike Maughan. I work at Qualtrics. I've been there for the last 7 years, and I run our global communications, strategic initiatives, and global insights.
Awesome. So maybe tell us a little bit more about your role specifically and how it's changed from when you started at Qualtrics to today.
Yeah, I have a role that's rather undefined, to be honest. I don't know that there's an equivalent at a lot of places. When I first started out at Qualtrics, I worked on our employee experience line of business. So Qualtrics has an experience management platform that helps organizations manage the four core experiences of business: customer experience, employee experience, product, and brand experience. And so my initial job there for the first year and a half was to work on the employee experience side of the business, launch our employee engagement and some other solutions there. Since then, I've taken a different role within marketing mostly, and work on strategic initiatives, special projects at Qualtrics, as well as our global communication strategy. And then somewhere in that period as well, we co-founded Five for the Fight, which is the campaign to invite everyone to give $5 for the fight against cancer, and formed a groundbreaking new partnership with the Utah Jazz about 3 years ago, first ever cause-related sponsorship of a jersey in North American sports history. And so we've been working on that for the past 3 years, and announced earlier this year that we had extended that sponsorship through 2022 to continue to raise money and help fuel groundbreaking cancer research. And thankfully have had the blessing of raising almost $25 million in the 3 years since we launched it.
That's awesome. So you kind of just told us a little bit about what you guys are working on. Maybe tell us what your day-to-day specifically looks like and who you spend most of your time with.
Yeah, I don't have a typical day. That's for sure. I think most of my time is spent across a wide variety of projects. Let me just share with you some of what we're working on right now, and maybe that will help with that. But right now, as many of you, as all of you know, we're going through this COVID-19 crisis and this epidemic, and so many people are working from home for the first time ever. I think at Qualtrics, I think it's 54% of people have never worked from home before for any extended period of time. And most of the global workforce is in a similar situation. If their jobs allow them to work from home, generally haven't. I mean, that's why Kiln and other places exist, right? To create spaces where people can get together and collaborate and work on those things. In addition to that, we've never dealt with a situation like this with our customers. Certainly governments are learning new ways to operate and to communicate with their citizens and make sure that people are okay. We're working on building testing and stuff like that. So one of the things Qualtrics has done recently that's more indicative of my day-to-day time is that, just like a lot of these different breweries, for example, kind of shut down their brewing beer in order to start manufacturing hand sanitizer, Qualtrics, as soon as COVID hit, did something very similar. And we took our team and began shifting all of our development over to developing a bunch of COVID-19 solutions that we could offer for free for a period of time to the world to help people navigate this. And so much of my time has been spent working with our amazing product teams, our product marketing group, and others who are developing these amazing solutions, and then working with them on a go-to-market strategy. In essence, how do we get these things to the right people so that they can have the biggest impact in the fastest period of time? And then we're creating a lot of government solutions. I think for the people on this on this video, the one that they'll likely be most familiar with is at testutah.com, where Qualtrics created the assessment and worked in partnership with many other incredible organizations here, from Domo to Co-Diagnostics to anyway, just a bunch of other great organizations to make sure that we could Know Me Health to develop a solution for the state to increase the amount of testing, but to do that in a way that was, one, scalable, two, that involved a lot of the right partners, both on the public and private partnership side, and that allowed us to develop this as a model for other states. So the assessment that people take when you go to testutah.com is all built on Qualtrics. It's a very sophisticated tool that allows you to route people in different areas based on geography to where to go for testing sites, et cetera. And we're in conversations with the governors of many other states who also want to leverage this and begin using it for their own states to make sure that they can model what Utah's been able to put together in this very unique public-private partnership. And so that's a lot of where my time has been spent in the last few days, working with our governor's office, with the CEOs of all of these various companies and stuff like that, to make sure that we can get these things out to help as many people as possible as soon as possible.
Well, that's really awesome. It's cool to hear what you guys are doing. And so we appreciate everything that Qualtrics is doing in response to coronavirus specifically, and excited to see if it does work in other states against the fight. I'm going to kind of pivot over to talking a little bit about your acquisition last year. Most people remember it happened not long before Silicon Slopes Tech Summit. Can you kind of walk us through how that went down?
Yeah, how much time do you have? So Qualtrics, as I think many people know, was planning to go public in the fall of 2018. So we were on the IPO roadshow, going and talking with lots of different companies, and had been preparing to be a public company for a long time. And just to be clear, the whole reason that we wanted to do that is because a few years before that, we launched what was called the Experience Management Platform and created an entirely new industry called experience management. So the same way that Salesforce created CRM or Workday or others helped create the HRM space, Qualtrics created the experience management space, or XM. And our goal was to figure out how we could take XM to the world the quickest and most effective way possible. And as we went through that analysis, obviously for us, becoming a public company would allow us to do that the most effectively. And that's what we wanted to make sure that we were doing. So we were on track for that. Our goal was not to just go public or be a public company. We wanted to be a great company, and we wanted to be a company that could help take this category to the world. So in the midst of doing all of that, we were put in touch with SAP, and we began talking and having conversations about how the two of us could potentially join forces, and what that would look like. And Ryan Smith has talked about this many times, but he shared with the then CEO of SAP that we were going on the roadshow starting Monday morning. They had a conversation the weekend before and said, look, if you have a week to put this together, and if something works there, great. Otherwise, we're going to go public. And as we weighed the decision internally, the conversations continued to be about how could we take XM to the world most effectively. And so when we looked at SAP, they've got thousands and thousands of salespeople all over the world. They have over 400,000 customers all over the world. And the synergies between the two companies was so clear. They brought together all of the operational data, or just kind of the finance and metrics that are associated with what's happening on the day-to-day. Qualtrics brought together what we call X data, or the experience data, which is why things are happening. And by marrying that X and O, we were able to partner in a way that allowed us to take XM to the world in a way that was even more effective and more efficient than what it would have been had it been Qualtrics by itself, even in a public situation. And so we chose to go that route. It was a crazy week. I don't think any of us who were involved, we had to keep it very quiet for obvious reasons, because there was no guarantee that that the acquisition was going to happen. And so we continued to dual path or dual track this whole thing. And there were moments where I'd step out of meetings as part of the roadshow to go take a phone call about the acquisition and back and forth. And we were not trying to play both sides, but just trying to make sure that we were acting with high fidelity on either option so that we could do what was the right decision to carry the business forward and continue to build a category that is changing how organizations and governments and educational institutions across the world work.
Awesome. So ultimately, the acquisition was the best move for you guys. Do you remember the moment that you heard that this was the new path you guys were taking, and how did you feel about that?
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, again, we had to keep it pretty quiet within the company. So I don't know that there were a ton who knew. I do remember the moment that we sat down and talked about it for the first time. And it was, it was a little while before as we were running through it. My initial reaction, I mean, we'd prepared for so long to go public. I think that we had several thousand employees, all of whom were looking forward to that milestone. People had done so much on that trajectory. But it immediately made sense to me, and I think it immediately made sense to a lot of people. We were able to share it with the company just right before. So after it had been told to us, but before it was made public, we were able to send out a quick email as the lawyers allowed. And so I think most people found out that Sunday afternoon when the SAP board approved it. And SAP is a huge German company, one of the largest software companies in the world, based out of Germany with large US presence as well. And given the reporting requirements, within 2 hours of the board vote, we had to announce it publicly. And so we had a very short window under which to let employees know in general about what was happening. And then we did all hands meetings that Sunday evening, again on Monday morning, and then went on a bit of a roadshow together with SAP, Ryan Smith, our CEO, and Bill McDermott, who was CEO of SAP. We went around for several days in a bunch of cities to talk to the press and analysts and others to kind of fill them in on why and explain the rationale and the reasoning. And it was a great experience.
Let's talk post-acquisition for a minute. How have things changed within Qualtrics, and how do you feel like it's maybe altered the DNA of Qualtrics as a company?
Yeah, I would say I don't think it has altered the DNA of Qualtrics in a lot of ways. Our goal, as I mentioned, was always to go forward and help take XM to the world. And I think that if anything, it's just accelerated that in ways that we've been very excited about and continue to be very motivated by. SAP is an incredibly respectful company in that way. As you can tell, obviously our name is still Qualtrics. We've not been folded in or anything. We didn't lose our identity there. I would say this, that in all the right ways, they leave us alone and say, what you're doing is working. We want you to keep doing that. And in all the right ways, we work together to make sure that we create synergies where we both benefit from one another. And the thing that I've loved in many ways about SAP is that they came to the table not saying, hey, we're the parent company, we're the behemoth, do what we say. But both of us, I think, have approached it in a way that said, let's learn from each other. And they've said there are a lot of things about Qualtrics and your culture and what you do that we want to adopt with our 100,000 employees. And so it hasn't been a top-down approach. It's been a very symbiotic relationship where we're both learning from each other. We're both growing together. They have an amazing event every year. We have an amazing event every year. I think there are a lot of things we learn from them and a lot of things they learn from us. And we continue to grow in that way. But look, we didn't do the acquisition so that we could be left alone. And they didn't do the acquisition so that they could come in and mess up what was already working. And so it's very, very rare to a year later have the acquiring CEO and the acquired CEO together. But it was interesting, just by chance, a year to the day after the acquisition had occurred, Jen Morgan, who's now co-CEO of SAP, Ryan Smith, and I and a couple others were all in New York. And we had this moment where we realized that it had been a year to the day and how great it was and what a unique but amazing partnership this has been, given that relationship is still so strong.
I like that a lot. There are obviously lots of new companies being started every day. What would you say are 2 to 3 maybe moves or characteristics of Qualtrics' story that helped you succeed above the rest?
Yeah, look, first of all, I want to be super clear. I wasn't there at the founding. I wasn't there for the first 10 years or so of Qualtrics, but there are some lessons that I have been there the last 7 when we've grown substantially. And there are a few things that I think have been incredibly helpful. First of all, the culture that we talk about, we call it TACOS. So it stands for transparency, all in, customer obsessed, one team, and scrappy. And I think that those 5 pieces to our culture are something that has been so core to who we are and that have always remained with us. We're a transparent place. Everyone knows whatever's going on, right? If people don't know what's happening, they go look for it. It causes distraction. We want to minimize distraction so that we're all geared in the right place together. So every single person, from the CEO to the newest intern, every week records what they're going to be doing that week. And then everyone can see that. That's not a big brother, big sister tactic nearly so much as it is something that allows us to collaborate in a really meaningful and powerful way. All in, we're all in on Qualtrics, right? We have a team that does what it takes to win, that works together, that we can rely on, and people are all in. Customer obsessed. If you take care of your customers, the rest takes care of itself. And that's always been the model and the mindset, is what will be best for the people that we serve. When it comes to one team, again, no team is trying to win at the expense of another. We're all in this together. Nobody says it's not my job. It's a culture of how can I jump in, how can I help, what can I do to help make sure that this is successful. And you see that all the time, especially in this COVID-19 situation. People are just jumping in, and this is not their job. It's not what they're normally metriced on, but it's one team, and it's just how we operate. And then scrappy is a characteristic that we've carried from the very beginning. I think it's hard to make it part of your DNA sometimes, especially sometime in, well, who knows what it's like right now, but in the past 7 years, the culture of investing has made it so that a lot of organizations have money and have money early on. And that means that they sometimes go the route of where money will take them. We've always said that we're a little wary of people whose initial inclination every time is to throw more dollars or more people at a problem, because constraints breed creativity. And when you have those constraints and you have to think of a new or different or better way of doing things, it's actually an enormously empowering thing, because initially the lazy decision, if you will, is to just hop in there and go with whatever you think is easy. Oh, if we just had more people working on this, if we could just put money behind this ad campaign or this demand gen thing. But the constraints force you to do things in a way that are different. They force that creativity, and that's a muscle that every organization needs to develop. The other thing I would add to this that is very hard to apply, especially because a lot of startups as they're growing are in pain. And when I say in pain, people in pain and organizations in pain make bad decisions. Write that down forever. It's true. I didn't come up with that, but it's a true axiom that you can carry with you forever. People in pain make bad decisions. And we have kept a very high hiring bar at Qualtrics from the very beginning. And there were many periods of time where it just felt like we're just dying over here, right? We're working so hard, so many hours trying to plow through. We just need people. And there's a strong temptation in those moments to lower your hiring bar and just take someone that can just help get the job done today. If we had done that at any point in time, we would not be where we are today, because we maintained a hiring bar where we said that you have to be able to not only do this job, but take the next 2 jobs. We've been able to build a team of great people. There's an old saying that's been around in the tech world for a while, but A players hire A players, B players hire C players, and C players sink the ship. I've seen that to be true at other companies. I've seen the opposite to be true with us. That doesn't mean that we get hiring right. Even the best people probably get hiring right 60 or 70% of the time. And I don't know that everyone's the best. So I'm not saying that we don't make hiring mistakes. I'm not saying that others are perfect at it or imperfect at it. I just think that one of the great things is make sure that you're getting the right people on the bus. and it's worth waiting to get the right people, no matter how much pain you're in, because if you just hire for the moment, it's the same with any principle in life. If you're just going for the moment, then you eat whatever you want to eat, and you start getting a plump face like mine. But it's that idea of tacos and keeping a high hiring bar are two of the most important things we ever did.
Um, I feel like you have such a great perspective on the Qualtrics journey, considering when you joined. What made you decide to join the Qualtrics team, and what were you working on before that?
Yeah, so before that, I have a weird background. I'd been doing international development, and then I moved from that into commercial real estate development, developing shopping centers, and then went back to grad school to do an MBA and a master's in public policy. Dropped out of that for a little bit to work in politics, and then went and finished. And by the time I finished grad school, that's when I came straight to Qualtrics. So very, very non-conventional path. I have a very non-conventional job. Again, I don't think it exists at other companies. So I wouldn't exactly look to follow that. In terms of how things, sorry, what is your question? I just forgot it.
No, you're okay. What made you decide to join the Qualtrics team, and kind of, you said what you were doing before that, but
Yeah. And why I joined.
talking, yeah.
Yeah, look, I think, and this is other great advice that I don't know that I've always been great at applying, but it's something that I'm still trying to learn. I joined Qualtrics primarily because of the people, and I am still at Qualtrics today primarily because of the people. When I was looking to leave graduate school, my criteria was that I wanted to go into a growing dynamic industry that directly impacted people's lives. And then I wanted to go to a company that not only was growing very quickly, but one that would allow me to grow with it. So those were kind of the two ways that I was trying to make that decision. Now, in terms of growing dynamic industry that directly impacted people's lives, for me, that came down to either healthcare or tech. I spent the first couple of years of grad school exploring healthcare options, and was fortunate to look at a lot of different companies and look at different opportunities available there. Ultimately, I decided it wasn't a good fit for me. I was very grateful. I wasn't mad that I'd quote unquote wasted that time. It was a good investment of time to realize that wasn't the right path. And so when I turned to tech, that fit that. And so at that point, I wanted again to find a growing company, one that was growing quickly. But I'd seen and heard too many stories of people who entered companies and then had them grow over them rather than be able to grow with them. And so I wanted to grow with an organization. And ultimately, it came down to the fact that when I interviewed with Ryan Smith and Jared Smith and others at Qualtrics, I said to myself, those are people that I want to work with and learn from. And that has remained true every single day of the last 7 years. And I've had a remarkable opportunity to work very closely with both Ryan and Jared and learn an incredible amount from them. And frankly, from everyone on the team. And I think the mark of any great person is that they're able to learn from everybody. And I've talked about the hiring bar at Qualtrics, and that's true. And we've developed an incredible team of people, from the most recent employees who are coming straight out of college to the most senior executives who've come from amazing positions at other companies. These remain people that I want to work with and learn from. People always say find great mentors. I still don't know exactly what that means. I've never called someone and said, hi, will you be my mentor? I think it's more something that just develops because you and they want to invest in each other. And when you surround yourself with good people, then those relationships, and they take time, they take effort, they take initiative to create and to keep going. But it's been an amazing piece of my journey to find people that I wanted to work with and learn from. And I continue to look at that with hiring, whether it's someone to come on my team several levels below, or someone that we're looking to hire who's more senior. That desire to want to work with and learn from everyone that you associate with is really powerful. That's what brought me to Qualtrics. That's much of what keeps me there today.
So it seems as if you and Ryan have a pretty unique relationship, and you have kind of an intimate view of his life. What is something you could tell us about Ryan that most people may not know, and what is he doing that other entrepreneurs can emulate?
Yeah, Dangerous question. I think most times we don't talk about our friends. Let me say this, and I think it's true. Ryan Smith is an amazing human being. And I've shared with you a minute ago that we did this partnership with the Utah Jazz and
Mhm.
have the patch on the jersey and stuff like that. One, I think that by itself is indicative of who he is and the all-in nature of Ryan Smith and the company, because I don't know of anyone else who, when you call them and say, hey, let's not put Qualtrics on the patch, let's forego all of the branding and stuff. The Jazz are an amazing partner and we love working with them. They did not give us a deal on the patch. We pay full price. And we cover 100% of the cost related to Fight for the Fight. But Ryan looked at this and said, are we all in on defeating cancer or not? And the answer was yes. And so we put the patch on the jersey and have never looked back, because that's the kind of person that he is. And look, I'm sure that was a painful decision. That man created Qualtrics and loves it with all his heart, and I think would love to see Qualtrics on the patch. But he's all in on that. Another simple example, as part of the partnership, Qualtrics has a bunker suite, and there's an attendant who stands outside the suite. When we first had that suite, would often just blow past the person and go into the suite and out to the seats and back and forth and never think twice. A few games in, I happened to be exiting at the same time as Ryan, and he stopped and looked at her and said, how are you doing? I mean, I always said hi. I'm not a total jerk, but he said, how are you doing? Can I get you any water? Can I grab you some food? What would you like? And he is thoughtful of everyone in a way that is remarkable. And he notices people, and he is eager to make sure that everyone is comfortable, that everyone is heard, and that everyone is taken care of. And that kind of willingness to listen, to observe, and to notice people, I think has makes him an incredible leader, where he has never thought that he has all the answers. He is an incredible visionary who I would follow anywhere. But part of his vision is because he's so good at noticing each individual person, investing in them and making sure that they're taken care of. And he watches and observes and notices. And I think that's really powerful in how he treats people and where he gets his ideas and the kind of leader that he is.
I loved hearing that. Thank you so much for sharing that about Ryan. As we prepare to close this conversation, I kind of want to pull it back to what Qualtrics is doing in the fight against coronavirus. Is there anything for the folks watching at home from their home offices that they can do to help or get involved in the work you're doing?
Yeah, look, there's so many things, and let me just say how grateful we are for everybody on the front lines who's fighting this, for the people all over the world, all over the state of Utah, who are rallying together. The testutah.com initiative is unique in all states. Again, we have a lot of states that are looking to replicate that have called and want to figure out how to do it on their own. But what an amazing group of people. And so I know at testutah.com and Slopes Serves, the Silicon Slopes group, you can sign up to volunteer and do things like that. In terms of looking more at the Qualtrics solutions and seeing how they may help, there are solutions for educators, for school districts, for companies who are looking to get in touch with their customers, for every organization who just wants to understand how their employees are doing. We have a remote and on-site work pulse where you can just check in with your employees. How are you? What do you need? And do that at scale. One other unique thing that we're doing, there's a site, qualtrics.com/Q&A, qualtrics.com/QANDA, where Angela Duckworth, who's one of the world's leading psychologists, she's the woman who wrote the New York Times #1 bestseller, Grit. Every day, or about every day, she is answering parents' questions. And those videos are posted to qualtrics.com/Q&A, where she answers parents' questions about how to navigate this pandemic, because it is different and everyone's in different situations. So she talks about how to build resilience, how to deal with disappointment from children or others whose events were canceled. They've been working for months on their play, and your sixth grader really wanted to do her part, right? How do you handle all of those different pieces? So that's another area that Qualtrics is trying to help. And then again, as far as where people can volunteer, slope serves or some of those other places.
It's great to know. We'll definitely share that information on our website and social channels. Mike, I just want to thank you for your time today and for sharing a little bit more about yourself and the work that Qualtrics is doing. We definitely can't wait to see what's going to happen next with you and your team. So thank you to you and everyone that tuned in today, and we'll see you guys next time on Startup Stories. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks so much.